Hey guys, Erickson here. Welcome to Preface TechBites. Over the past months, we have seen the emergence of AI tools that can interact with external applications. We have covered tools like AutoGPT, ChatGPT plugins, and Code Interpreter, which are able to take actions for us instead of just returning some text. These tools are what many consider to be a step towards AGI, or Artificial General Intelligence. Today, we're going to be looking at a new tool called Gorilla AI, which might be the closest AI model we have to an AGI. We're going to talk about what it is, how it works, and I will also show you some cool demos of what it can do. Gorilla is a large language model, or LLMs, that can provide the appropriate API calls for any task or prompts given by a user. API stands for Application Programming Interface, and it is essentially a way for different software applications to communicate with each other. For example, if you want to book a hotel online, your computer might use an API that connects you to different hotels or travel websites. Gorilla is not just an ordinary LLM though. It's a cutting-edge LLM that revolutionizes the way API calls are generated. This AI system has undergone extensive training on 3 massive machine learning hub datasets. We have Torch Hub, TensorFlow Hub, and Hugging Face. This ensures a comprehensive understanding of various programming languages and frameworks for Gorilla. What sets Gorilla apart is its dynamic nature, where it continuously evolves by rapidly incorporating new domains including GCP, AWS, OpenAI, and many more. This adaptability equips Gorilla with expansion knowledge base, where developers and users working on different technological stacks can use Gorilla while expecting updated API. To prove the superiority of Gorilla, they have stated in their paper that its model has surpassed contemporary models like GPT-4 and Claude in terms of performances and accuracy. It is able to generate accurate API calls from more than 1,600 applications, which is remarkable as other LLMs don't even come close to this number. This allows developers to effortlessly generate API calls without compromising on accuracy and precision, which streamlines the whole development process to increase productivity. What's even better is that the model is completely open source and you can even use it for commercial purposes. Alright, now that we know what Gorilla can do, let's take a look at how they achieve this. Let's say we give it a prompt to find an API that converts spoken language to text using Torch Hub. Now there are a few steps that the model has to take. First, it has to understand the natural language for it to deduce which API to call. From all available API, it has to select which can perform the operation that we're requesting accurately. Next, it has to specify what are the inputs to the API call. This is where it becomes tricky because a lot of situations we have very similar API with different inputs. This is where most LLMs fail. To summarize the process, they have fine-tuned a Llama 7 billion parameter model, which they named Gorilla 7B. The model is specifically trained on datasets for making API calls. 1,645 API calls to be specific, and most of them were retrieved from Hugging Face. The rest are trained using data from TensorFlow Hub and Torch Hub. For the learning journey, the researchers uses self-instruction to create pairs of instructions and matching APIs. The data was then transformed into a chat-style conversation format made for user-agent interaction. Afterwards, a standard instruction fine-tuning is implemented using the Llama 7B model. It also uses a zero-shot method, which can generate API calls without explicit training on individual API. It generalizes its knowledge across various domains to generate accurate API calls for new and unseen tasks. We can see here a practical example where, let's say we want to see cats dancing in celebration. It then goes into a retriever to fetch different API, formulating the API required to generate image, and finally it chooses the stable diffusion model pipeline to generate the dancing cats. What's really exciting here is that Gorilla is very accessible and you don't have to install anything to get started. Let's take a look at a demo. They've provided a Google Colab notebook on their site, which you can first save it to copy in your Google Drive. Also remember to connect to your own machine to avoid messing up the runtime. To initialize, just run the first few blocks to install the dependencies. Using it is very simple. We just need to call the getGorillaResponse function, provide a prompt, and specify a model. In the first example, let's tell Gorilla that we want to translate from Chinese to English using the Hugging Face Transformer API provider. After executing the code, we can see the first step is to import the necessary library, and in this case, it is called pipeline. Then, it tells us to specify the translation model we can use, and finally, we have to pass the English text and it will return a Chinese text. It provides a sample code for us, so we have to copy and execute it to see if it works. When we run the code, we can see the text, "Hello world, how was your day today?" translated to 你好世界，今天过得怎么样? If you're not sure whether the response is correct, then you can simply check it using Google Translate. but in this case, it sounds pretty accurate. Just looking from this example, we can see that we can create a lot of applications by just using natural language. Gorilla can handle all the API calls for us. Another example here, I want to build a robot that can detect objects in an image. It figured out the domain is a computer vision object detection. It tells us the step-by-step of how we can achieve it. Sometimes it provides the code and sometimes we need to tune the model a bit for it to work properly. Now the question is Gorilla an AGI yet? It still relies on human-generated data and documentation. It still needs human guidance and feedback to improve its model. But this is definitely a step closer to AGI compared to other LLMs out there, as it can learn from new sources, adapt to changes, and perform. What do you think? Is Gorilla the dawn of AGI or just merely a hype? Stay tuned and see you in the next TechBites.